You're all set. Have a good meeting, Mr. Snow.
Thank you, Seth.
Thanks, Seth. You too. Have a good night. Okay. So, welcome to the November 13th meeting of Scituate Conservation Commission. I have a couple of quick things to read here. This meeting is being held virtually as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. And the town of Scituate, Massachusetts is commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Scituate Conservation Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during meetings. We ask all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there is disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. And we ask all members and all who participate to commit to these standards and to support and respect our community. So that said, we have an agenda. And are there any omissions, additions, changes to the agenda?
Frank, Amy said that items F and G are going to be continued, and in case anybody's watching for those things, we might want to make sure they know that.
Thank you, Richard. So item F is opposite 280, 286 Central Ave. That's Jan Wills Realty, William Papastrasis, something like that. That's going to get continued when we get to it. And 0 and 40 Crescent Ave, that's an ANRAD, and that also is going to be continued. So thanks for that, Richard.
Sure.
At the end of the meeting, maybe we just want to discuss real quick a couple of things with the Border Street field. If we have a couple of minutes, if not, we'll do it at another time.
Also, if we can bat around the appointee for the Mordecai Lincoln
Right.
committee.
That's something that they're looking at figuring out some things for that property, and we want to have a liaison or someone involved in that. I think those are the biggies. I can fill you in a little bit more on a couple of open space things if we have a minute.
Good.
So, do I have a motion to accept the agenda with those few things?
So moved.
That was Doug. A second by
So seconded.
by Brendan. All in favor? Richard?
Yep.
Frank, yes. Great. So 453 Chief Justice Cushing Highway on November 13th, 6 p.m. the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws and Section 32050 Town of Scituate Stormwater Bylaw regarding the application of the Town of Scituate for work related to constructing a new water treatment plant complex located at 453 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting is available on the agenda posted on the town website. Okay. So
We have Mark Manganello from LEC on that call.
okay. So why don't you start then, Mark?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mark Manganello with LEC Environmental Consultants. We filed this application on behalf of Scituate DPW. The project involves construction of a 3 million gallon per day water treatment plant complex, which includes a 35,000 square foot building, paved parking areas and access driveways, sand drying beds, a new septic system, and a stormwater management system. The project activities in the Commission's jurisdiction are limited to disturbance to isolated vegetated wetlands, which are jurisdictional solely under Scituate Wetlands Bylaw. There are no activities in areas subject to protection under the Wetlands Protection Act. So we filed this NOI solely under the bylaw and not the state act. I assume you are all familiar with the site location on the west side of Route 3A, so I won't go into great detail there. There are graphics included in the NOI that show the property boundaries, etc. Wetland resource areas associated with the property were confirmed by this commission through an order of resource area delineation issued in April 2022. You can see those wetland boundaries on the graphic here. In green, there are 5 isolated vegetated wetlands which are within the property. There's a little leg of the property which extends off the top of the screen there down toward Tack Factory Pond. There are other resource areas down there such as BVW, riverfront area, BLSF, bank, but there's no work within those resource areas or their buffer zone as part of this project. Let's see. So the new water treatment plant will replace the existing water treatment plant, as you all know, located a mile south on Route 3A near the Greenbush Rotary along the shoreline of Old Oak and Bucket Pond. Demolition of the existing treatment plant and associated activities will be addressed in a separate NOI. You'll recall that a previous NOI was submitted for infrastructure improvements between the two facilities within Route 3A. All 3 phases of the project were described in an ENF filing with MEPA in May of 2023, and MEPA issued a certificate stating that the project did not require an environmental impact report. As I mentioned, the new water treatment plant building and facilities complex is primarily within non-jurisdictional uplands, and a portion of it's in the buffer zone and within isolated vegetated wetlands regulated under your bylaw. The project will involve filling 1 small IVW, which you can see just to the left of the entrance and snow storage area there and the sand drying beds. We're talking about hundreds of square feet here, not thousands. I believe the total amount is 738 square feet of wetland filling. And as mitigation, we're proposing 775 square feet of wetland replication, which will essentially connect 2 of the IVWs just to the south of the complex, which you can see there's a hatched polka dotted area connecting 2 IVWs in that location. These IVWs were found to be relative low value during the ANRAD process in terms of their origin. They seem like they were created by earthwork, heavy equipment activity, perhaps test pits that were done during previous attempts to develop this property. So they're not super high value isolated vegetated wetlands, and we feel that the replication will adequately mitigate the proposed filling. I think that's a summary of the project. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, Amy?
Yeah, sure. So thanks, Mark, for this presentation. And as you know, from the memo that you got, we had Art Allen from Ecotech take a look at the proposed NOI, and he also was that firm was the one that peer reviewed and also agreed to the resource areas under the ORAD. But anyway, so a couple of the comments that Art had would be that if at all possible to avoid impacts to wetland E, because it looks like the project certainly can do that. And then with respect to the proposed replication area that they want to connect D and E, we are still in need of a planting plan in detail with the planting plan for that replication, but that he was in agreement that was a good good idea for replication in that location. So and then other than that, I mean, I know that the project, it's true that there was a certificate from the state on the overall project, and then also planning board has been reviewing this project and is also undergoing site-specific review for the stormwater management that's proposed for the new facility. And while conservation does roll the stormwater management into the orders on this one, since it's under the local bylaw only, I think that it's probably adequately regulated by the planning board. Since it's not going through the, I don't think it's going through the DEP standard, and it's out of our state jurisdictional DEP wetlands. So, those are my comments.
Okay. Would like to go first? Doug?
Well, one question I had, Amy just answered that the stormwater review is going to be done by the planning board. Is that correct?
It's in process. It's getting close to being done.
Okay.
But would we be reviewing that with them as well?
I think from what I understand from the last peer review, that they're on the home stretch there on peer review comments. I think they're in peer review number 4. So they've almost tightened up the whole project, meeting DEP stormwater standards for infiltration.
It looks to me like the stormwater control is all in upland. I'm looking at the forebay and a couple basins up there, infiltration pond. So that's all outside of the buffer zones. It's all, so that all actually it all looks good to me. I'm tend to agree that those little tiny wetland pockets are probably due to previous test pits. I know that this was slotted for development at one point. Well, more than one point. It's been gone through a few iterations. So I think this is, I don't really have any significant questions here.
Thanks, Doug. You don't want you can
I can
reserve the
loop
right to come back
yeah,
in here. Sure.
I reserve the right to speak again.
Okay. Brendan?
Yeah, I guess my first question may be for Amy. This because I might be missing something here. So the wetland E, what's Art say about that?
His comment is if the project can avoid any impacts to wetland E, it would be preferable.
Okay, but we're all right.
Yeah, I can respond to that. Wetland E, if you look to the bottom left of the limit of work, there's one wetland that's completely within the limit of work. That's unavoidable. That's near the sand drying beds. It's within the footprint of the sand drying beds. But to the left of that, heading south, there's a little tip of a wetland that is within the limit of work shown on this graphic. It's kind of like a V shape, a little further and up right there. So you can see that green line just crosses the limit of work just to the right of the cursor.
Mhm.
That's the location that Art was referring to. So we need to look at the grading plan and see if we can work around that, which I think we'll be able to do.
Is that, you follow that, Brendan?
Brendan, are you muted?
Yeah, and it muted me again. Sorry. Yeah, I got that.
You look like you have a nice chat with yourself.
And actually, it's better that you didn't hear it. I didn't say anything bad. It's just no, okay. Yeah, that was the only question I had for now.
Okay. Richard?
I don't have any particular question. A curiosity is, what is this connection to the cemetery all about? And is that supposed to be a public connection or just for the workers that would be there?
I don't remember any connection to a cemetery.
Yeah, existing cemetery, and it says there's a walkway proposed cemetery access walkway on the right of the drawing of, so I
Oh,
guess,
yeah.
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, well, good. I'm glad I'm
That's
not the only
a
one.
historical grave site, Mark? Do you know?
Yes.
what that is?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
And
I thought I knew about the cemeteries. I worked in the archives at once, and I thought I knew all about the cemeteries. That's not one I knew about. Huh. Okay, well, I still have my curiosity question. Is that for a public access, or is that for just the people who would be working there?
I believe it's public. That's my understanding.
Okay, interesting. I have no other questions, Frank.
Okay. I think we have some folks that might want to address this. So if we want to, am I seeing any hands or any?
Yeah, use the raise hand feature on the Zoom if you want to participate. And state your name and address, please.
It's funny that so I roved around the lower part of this, like where the wetlands were and up there, but I never went up more towards that tip nor even noticed that that piece was back there. Now I have to go back in.
Seeing no hands raised, Frank.
Um, okay, so Mark, they're gonna make some adjustments to this.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna try to sort out that issue with wetland E, and then we do recognize we need to provide a planting plan for the replication area, so that will be submitted as well.
Any idea where are you gonna like expand an existing wetland?
Yeah, you can see it on this graphic. There's it's labeled wetland.
Oh, I get it.
replication.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So it
Um,
connects those two IVWs.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it'll work out okay.
And is that, I agree with Doug in looking at those. To me, these were just sunken areas that
Mhm.
perk tests were done in the past and then just never filled all the way or settled. And we've seen that fairly frequently.
Yep.
And is that 1-to-1 or what 2-to-1 or how do you? I forget what our bylaws ask
It's
for.
slightly more than 1-to-1.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think we covered a lot of this in the ANRAD, what we had there for
Yeah.
resource areas, and it seems like they've done a good job of pulling this as far away as they really can do that. Any idea how much fill's required?
I don't know the number. I mean, it's a fair amount if you look at the grading plan to get the lower reaches of the site up to the topography of the plant itself. You know, there's a fairly steep slope that'll be constructed between the drying beds and that southerly limit of work, but I don't know the number. I can try to find it for you.
Is it? I was looking to see if there was some limit of clearing or something, Mark, in terms of trees and stuff. I'm make sure that they don't clear anything that they don't have to. Is everything inside the that limit being cut down? I mean, I'm assuming if you're going to fill it, you're going to have to do most of that.
Yes, that's correct. They adjusted the limit of work to minimize tree clearing as much as possible, especially to the west. And there is a fairly detailed and I don't want to say aggressive, but comprehensive landscaping plan to plant out any areas they possibly can. You know, because some of the areas are disturbed primarily for grading, not necessarily for a structure or a stormwater basin. There's room to plant trees and shrubs and seed mixes and that sort of thing. So that's been done comprehensively.
What is the absorption system on the right side? Is that for drainage?
That is septic. I believe that's the
Septic.
leaching field.
So is it really, I'm just trying to figure out how in that direction, whether they really need to clear all the way out to that point.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it, maybe if you pull up the grading plan, we'll see the
I was just
grading
gonna
plan.
say, there's a grading plan included, C400's the plan number, and it's, you know,
Yeah,
you'll see it's pretty significant. My guess is that's probably got to be a pump system.
But you see how
Um,
far out the
to reach
clearing goes
grade.
on that, Doug?
Yeah,
I mean, I
Um,
just don't know why that whole tip needs to be cleared.
well,
Oh,
there's grading around the septic system, so it's elevated. And then I'm guessing that it's got to be a pump system that goes in there. So there might be some trees in throughout there that could be saved. If,
Hmm.
you know, that, you know, depending on where the pipe goes. I don't know if we have the septic plan here. Is that included? But we're going from there back out, it's all grading.
I mean, I
So
see all that to the south. I just wonder why that's needed all the way.
I think it's just to smooth out the grading from the top of the leaching field, which is going to be elevated above the existing surface. You can see um, on this drawing that's up. That's going to be sort of like a mounded system, I guess you would call it.
Well,
And
unfortunately, right where your name is what I'm trying to see. Um,
oh, I do see a force main on there. So it's coming around the sort of the west side. So
yeah.
I think you could save trees in between the parking area and the septic system. And then maybe, even though it looks like the grading, yeah, like what you said, is there to kind of smooth it out.
I'll
They
ask the
might
I mean,
want,
question.
it's a mounted system. I just don't see why that's needed to clear that. I mean, it's not huge, but it's something.
there's a retaining wall that goes around it too.
Yeah, but that's all fairly tight, right? I mean,
Well, actually, that might be a barrier. That might not be a retaining wall,
but you see what I'm like on the side closest to the plant, it's a fairly steep
Mhm.
berm on a couple of sides, but I just don't understand why that right side has to be.
yeah, you could save some trees in there. I think that could wrap around and be more
I'm
of
just holding up for Penny because she's not here.
a.
She'll be proud of you.
Okay. Well, I think that's if something that could be looked at. We do have one hand up, a Michael Gibbons. You can bring Mr. Gibbons on.
Michael Gibbons, yeah, needs to,
Gibson.
name and address, please.
Hi, yeah, Michael Gibson, 142 Old Forge Road. Just for
Sorry
some
about that.
No worries. So for some context, I'm in a butter. I'm well, if you're looking at this, where that little strip is that goes to Tack Factory Pond, I'm that last kind of house in the corner. But so I think you're right to point out there's places to save trees. I wouldn't say that they have maximized the buffer in all cases. It's an open point with the planning board. The plan that was presented during multiple town meetings by the applicant had a 50-foot buffer for any work. That was the town the plan that was presented at special town meeting when it was approved. They've since reneged on that. It's now limited to just the bare minimum of 30 feet in certain places. So if you have concerns about that, I would implore you to raise them with the applicant. The cutting plan as well, it very much is everything within the scope of work they plan to cut. So if you have additional concerns about up by the septic and leaching field, again, I hope you raise them. The note about a comprehensive landscape plan that has not been presented. So I think it's an open point. No one has seen that, includes the planning board. There's a meeting about it on Thursday. And just Richard Harding, for your own edification, that access to that cemetery, it is public. It'll be around a fence. So there's a fence right by the road right there, but there will be a walkway. So it's not just for the workers. It will be for everyone.
Thank you.
So I hope that's helpful context. Been to many of the meetings and tried to stay apprised of it. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think you
So
raised
Mark,
some good
just
points.
so I'm clear, like the area that they're showing this dotted line as a I guess a setback requirement or something, but let's say that in the area that's directly behind them.
Yep, that LW line is the,
So there is at least in some place which unfortunately pushes this whole project to the and it's also trying to keep it away from Tack Factory Pond. But unfortunately it would be nice to take a look at that area that's been contoured
between the building and 3A. Really it'll be vegetation. The road will remain uncut.
so they're
Just checking.
aggressive. On the other hand, it's a treat most of us. So Amy, what do you think? I mean, with these, how close are they with the planning board?
Well, they do have a meeting this week. I don't know exactly how close they are. What's your hearing schedule? If it's okay with you, I'll start with the 4th. And I think I'll know after the plan. If it's not, I'll let you know.
It would be good if we can't trim that up a little bit more.
Yes, I will.
All
I
right.
will do so.
Is there anything else, Doug, Brendan, that we
I'm
want?
wondering where the erosion control barrier is. Does that follow the limit of work line as well?
Yes.
Okay.
And I would presume that we've already mentioned the planting plan. That would be part of the next conversation that we have.
That's a
Yeah.
good point.
Yep.
Okay.
Are those kind of in the?
Yes, those are far along. I don't have a concern about those being ready for December 4th.
Okay. All right. Well, let's somebody want to make a motion?
To continue 453 Chief Justice Cushing Highway to December 4th of 2023.
Was Richard a second
I'll second that.
from Doug? All in favor, Brendan
Yes.
and Frank? Yes. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you all.
8 Westgate Lane. This is continued. Through Morse Engineering.
Yeah, so this is a continued public hearing and we have James Garfield on. I think this is going to be quick because just want to let you know that we did receive updated plan and revised NOI sheet. I think that's mostly what we were waiting for. There's a couple of corrections on the site plan and NOI form revised. You guys have talked about this a couple of times.
Okay.
Yep, so James Garfield here, representing the applicant. So as Amy said, this is a continued hearing. We've since revised the plan to include moving 4 drywall chambers from the rear yard to the side yard. We corrected a leader pointing to the split rail fence, which was previously pointing in the wrong location. And then we also updated the DEP Form 3 to identify the riverfront area, and also paid the additional fees associated with that. So just to summarize, we have ZBA approval for this project. Project complies with riverfront area development standards. And yeah, we believe this will be a great improvement to what's currently existing on this site.
Okay, Amy, you want to add anything to that?
Not really. I concur that we've received all of that, and you've received that information in your emails as well, in your packets.
All right. Richard,
No, I saw the revisions. I'm good.
Brendan,
I don't have any questions.
Doug,
I'm good.
do you have anybody in the audience for this one?
So this is for 8 Westgate, if you have a comment.
I think the last time we had this is when we had the pranksters jump in.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Seeing none.
Okay, take a motion.
Make a motion to close.
That's Richard, a second.
I'll second that.
Brendan, all in favor? That's where you come
Yes.
in, Doug.
Yes.
And and Frank, yes, thank you. 72 Glades Road. Is this a continuance or a new hearing?
New hearing, I think.
What did we hear? 70 Glades Road?
This is a new hearing, 72.
Yeah, hold on. I'm just trying to find you. Bear with me for 1 second. On November 13th, 2023, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Horace and Emily. Want to help me out with that? Chakra for work related to raising and reconstructing single-family dwelling at location 72 Glades Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda post on the website. Have at it.
Okay, so again, James Garfield with Morse Engineering, here representing the applicants. This is a notice of intent filing for a raise and rebuild project at 72 Glades Road. This is one of the buildings that was destroyed in the fires earlier this year. This project is, the property is 7,136 square feet. The Atlantic Ocean is to the east, with coastal beach coming back towards the seawall, and then coastal dune landward of the seawall. The entire site lies within land subject to coastal storm flowage, consisting of VE zones, elevation 19 and 20, as well as AE, elevation 15, towards the front of the site. For reference in topography, the entrance to the site via the right-of-way out on Glades Road sits at elevation 10, and the ground surface on the landward side of the seawall is elevation 13. So the existing home was completely destroyed in the fire and has since been removed. We're proposing a new single-family home elevated on timber-driven piles. The structural plans provided by Rivermore Engineering document the first floor sits at elevation 24. This project also includes a new septic system, which will sit underneath the proposed building. This project has received unanimous approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals. We've got an erosion control barrier along the essentially the limits of the property, along the limits of work. And yeah, we're bringing this new building into FEMA compliance, and will also be subject to the building code. So with that, I'll pass it back for any questions.
Thank you. Amy?
Yeah, so, we just had NOIs for, the properties adjacent to this property, so if you recall from those properties, there was some home fires, that burned these buildings down, so this is the rebuild of those. So I think that, your question will probably be in line with the other sites that you just recently reviewed and did condition. But anyway, so as James pointed out, this is beach and coastal dune and land subject to coastal storm flowage. And there is a seawall on this site. The rebuild will need to go in on driven open pilings, consistent with state building code, and they are upgrading their Title V system. Board of Health has not signed off on the septic at this point as of today, although they're making progress. And we do have the structural plans, and I think it's a good project. So DEP had no comments other than that it needs to meet the elevation for driven piles.
Frank, I think you're muted.
Sorry. Doug?
I don't think I have any questions. It looks pretty clear. You're gonna install a new septic system it's superior probably to the trenches there before. You get chambers in there underneath the house, right?
Correct.
And no, I mean, I think it all looks good to me. Elevation of the house is the important thing, and part of it's in the velocity zone. So, but I think you know that. So, I'm good.
Okay. Brendan?
Gotta make sure you can hear me. So I think what I'm looking at here, correct me if I'm wrong, so there's what was there and is like first and second story, is that all that was there? With all these different decks? Or is that new?
That's correct. Yep. So there was a third story deck previously and a first and second story deck, which were off the back of the previous house that was there.
Okay, and that's being replaced by this structure which has no decks?
There is a deck off the rear of the house, yes. So you can see that extends pretty close to the limit of work.
Oh, the whole.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's a deck, or is that a covered porch?
No, that's going to be an open deck.
It's gonna be an open deck. Okay. All right, that's all I had. That's just the only question I had. Thank you.
Okay. Richard?
I don't really have any questions. Brendan stole it.
Do we have anybody in the audience? Oh, let's see if anybody
none.
pops in. James, couple of questions. So you're abandoning leaching system that's closer to the road and moving it closer to the ocean to put it under the house. Why isn't it further from the beach? Why isn't it in the area where it exists now to like remove that and put it out there?
Sure. So that system, for one reason or another, is actually located off-site, and there are no easements associated with it. So, by nature of that, we have to bring this system onto our property. the neighbor doesn't want this septic system on his property especially with no easements. So that's why we brought it onto our property. And in terms of just location, I mean, we're trying to put it, somewhere feasible, given all the piles that are gonna have to be installed with this house. So that's why it's located where it is.
But there's no way that could have been drawn back so that it's at least out of the V zone area.
I suppose it's possible. I mean, we're trying to meet property line setbacks with the septic tank from what I can tell on this plan. And with the septic tank being there, it kind of eliminates that area to pull the leaching field down further, I guess towards the bottom of this page. I mean, if you'd like, we could look at it. It'd be more of a Board of Health talk at that point, just to see if, we could ask for said variance to, decrease that setback to the lot line. But if it's something the commission feels strongly about, I could certainly look into it.
Well, it seems to me like the last couple of chambers are fully in the VE zone. And I don't see why if the outlet came out of the end of the septic tank and the D blocks were off the end of the septic tank, why all those chambers couldn't be pulled back far enough to at least get it out of the V zone.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at eyeballing it, I can't tell you for sure, but I think you are right. We could probably pull it back a few feet, but to pull it entirely out of the VE zone with this layout, I don't think is feasible given where the septic tank sits.
Well, personally, I'd like to see that pulled away as much as possible from the ocean. And I really don't, I'm not going to profess to know all the setbacks for that, but it seems like if the D blocks were right in line with that septic tank, that whole leaching area could be drawn back a decent amount. I'd like to see it out of the V zone altogether.
Okay,
The other,
we can take a look at that.
The other thing, there is a pretty substantial increase of the deck going towards the sea. It's a seawall, the house, and then there was a good amount of open area. In this case, the house has been expanded probably about 8 or 10 feet going towards the ocean. And then there's a big deck in front of that, which takes it all the way to the seawall. I don't think it's a huge increase in impervious area, and it sits on piles anyways.
Yeah, I mean, just to, I guess, speak on that a little bit.
Yep.
The deck, the deck would be totally pervious. Water would go through it, and then, like you said, underneath the entire house also is going to be wide open. So that whole area will be able to infiltrate water. And I think the thought process here also is just that I've been told that there are many houses along Glades Road and Surfside where patios and decks do extend up to the seawall.
Right.
As opposed to a site where there is no seawall. So
Mhm.
I think that's kind of the thought process on this one.
Right. Well, I get it. When you're elevated in the air, you'd like to have that living space sort of off your first floor. You're not going to be on a patio anymore. But in the discussion we've had with these other houses, it was sort of an increase. There is an increase of footprint. I don't know, maybe 20%. Do you have the increased footprint of the existing house?
The house, I don't have that number in front of me, but I can certainly get that for you. I'll make a note of it.
Doug, can you see that? Brendan, Richard?
Yeah.
So the house is crosshatched. So the new house is probably 8 to 10 feet closer to the water. And it's probably 6 feet larger on the north side of the house. Am I right?
I'm sorry, Frank. Can you,
James, so it looks to me like the house is expanded on the north side of the house at least about 6 feet. The length of the house, and there's even a little bit larger area towards Glades Road. So there's an area like a big corner filled out there.
yeah,
And then the house is probably 6 to 8 feet closer to the beach. It's probably more than 20% because there's that whole expansion on the north side, a little bit of expansion on the west side, and then the east has got a pretty good side. I guess I'd want to know how much larger
the footprint.
the footprint of this house is than what was there.
Okay.
And I really think that septic you ought to try to figure that out and get that as far away from that. I realize it's behind the seawall and it's in sand, but technically it's still the V zone.
Certainly. We'll look at that. We'll pull that as far back as we can.
Okay. How long do you think it'll take you to get that together?
That we could certainly do before the next hearing. That's easy enough.
Well, so James, though, it would be good to be like, basically have Board of Health approval by the time you come back, I think.
Is it possible for us to continue to next hearing? And if need be, I can send you an email and we can, push it further back.
Yeah,
Yep.
of course, yep.
Okay. Somebody want to make that motion?
Make it continue 72 Glades Road to December 4th, 23.
That was Richard. Do we have a second?
Second that.
By Brendan. All in favor?
Yes.
Doug, yes, and Frank, yes. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
13 Hillcrest on November 13th, 2023, 6 p.m. The Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws and Section 32050 Town of Scituate Stormwater Bylaw regarding the application of Kristen West for work related to raising and rebuilding a single-family dwelling at location 13 Hillcrest Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the website. Okay. And that's
Morse Engineering, James, James, you're on.
Yep. So again, James Garfield, Morse Engineering, here representing the applicant, Kristen West. This is a notice of intent and stormwater permit filing for a raise and rebuild project at 13 Hillcrest Road. The site is 10,185 square feet, all upland, currently developed with a single family home, septic and driveway. There's a bordering vegetated wetland located just off site, which was delineated by John Zimmer. And we've got 50 and 100-foot buffer zones which extend onto our property. We're proposing to raise the existing home and build the new single-family home predominantly in the same location. This house is going to be serviced by a gravel driveway and new Title V septic system. The home, all the utilities and driveway will be outside of the 50-foot buffer, and only minor grading will encroach within the 50 with an existing lawn area. We're proposing a roof drywall system to capture the front half of the roof runoff and infiltrate that back into the ground. The entire site in the pre and post development conditions slopes back towards the bordering vegetated wetlands located off site. The commission hired Art Allen to review this filing. Art's letter dated November 4th appears to agree with the delineation and made the recommendation for mitigation plantings within the existing yard, which we will happily add to our plan as recommended. The commission also hired Horsley and Witten to review the stormwater permit. We received the comment letter today, so we haven't had a chance to respond to that yet. But at a first glance, the plan, or it doesn't appear that the plan will require many changes, but we do need to provide Horsley and Witten with some additional data. And I don't believe DEP has any comments on this. So with that, I'll pass it to the commission for any questions.
Okay, Amy?
Yes. This is what James just indicated is a good description of what I see the project is as well. So you've got a peer review for resource areas to just confirm accuracy by Ecotech, and also an ongoing stormwater peer review by Horsley Witten for a raise rebuild. DEP had no comments. It's a buffer project. You know, obviously, if the project can minimize disturbance in your 50-foot setback, that would be the best, since that is your no touch. This project does go into that 50. So there's a way they can minimize that. That would be the best. That's all I have.
Okay. Doug, I'm gonna lean on you again, just to-
Yeah, I'm looking at the the incursion into the 50 is the retaining wall mostly. And the grading. But it looks like this site is clear already. I'm looking at the tree line. So this is all lawn already, James?
Yes, that's correct. At least the portion that we're, encroaching into the 50.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at the size of the system that you have. There's not a lot of room there. You've got to stay off the property line with that retaining wall, I'm sure. It doesn't, I mean, I don't immediately see something that you could do about reconfiguring that to reduce the retaining wall, but that's the biggest incursion. As far as expansion of the house, there is some in the 100, looks like, but then the garage is all out of the 100. Mostly out of the 100. Is that correct, James? Like that of the shaded area is all the new house.
Yeah, so I believe that the intent of this project, they're gonna actually reuse a lot of the existing foundation from that house that's currently there. But you are correct. They're gonna build off, I guess, to the left of it slightly, and as well as add that garage to the right of it.
And is that expansion what triggered the stormwater?
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
the increase of impervious roof area triggered stormwater.
Okay. And Horsley and Witten, they're the ones that reviewed that. So if we have that in our packet, I haven't read it either. So you just got some comments on that today. Yeah, I mean, you got the stormwater up in front, so you're getting that as far away from the resource area as you can and away from the septic. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can't quickly look at that and say, well, you've already, I'm sure you've already looked at that, changing the shape of that septic to reduce that retaining wall.
Yeah, I know we looked
But-
at that quite a bit, and
Yeah.
that's the orientation we came up with.
Is there any mitigation as far as plantings go back behind that that you're proposing? I see there's this.
Yeah, so Art
Oh.
Allen suggested adding plantings. I think in the area like right behind the limit of work we show, between that and the tree line, I believe. We haven't had a chance to add that to the plan yet, but we're going to. So we will
Okay.
have solution plantings there.
That looks like the best opportunity from the Toa slope past the retaining wall out to the existing tree line. There's some opportunity there to add something constructive anyways for the wetlands. But
Yeah.
I think that would be my only real comment there, is just to add that. So I'm glad you already have plans for that.
Okay. Brendan?
Yeah, so I guess I would echo that desire for mitigation plantings. It looks like there's 3 trees in the back of the current house that you're going to be taking out.
You are correct. Yep, there
Yeah.
are 3 trees within the 100. Yep.
And then the 100, and then also the encroachment into the 50. Also, like you're building right up to the 50, I'm wondering if conservation markers might not be an idea, because whoever lives here long term, I don't know if they'll want to go further. They should know that they really shouldn't. Just throwing that out there. And that's really it. I guess it's not a huge lot, and then lots in the 100. So
Great, thanks. Richard?
Nope. No, I was concerned about the trees, so we need a planting plan, something to mitigate that. And I just wish they could move that whole thing over a few feet so there was a little more out of the 100 and away from the 50. But I do realize since there's a house there, they're essentially replacing, they probably can't do that. So mitigation plan is the biggest thing I see.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience?
Yeah, to participate, use the raise hand feature and name and address. Thing.
Okay. I think that everybody's got some good comments there. I think conservation's posts on that angular property line, like coming off the retaining wall and running, I don't know, maybe between the limit of work and the 50-foot buffer. Does a limit of, I guess the limit of work has to be out there because of the grading. So I don't know, what do you think the conservation post placed at the limit of work?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
And then maybe plantings from that limit of work to the tree line, get some better. And then between the property line and the retaining wall, something, I don't know, what do you think? Brendan, Doug, Richard?
I'm sorry, Frank, try me again.
So if we have a limit of the conservation marker sort of on that angular line for
Yeah.
the limit of work, and then so that leaves like a grassed area. There's going to be a slope there now going down to that, and so if that area from the limit of work to the tree line were vegetated, and maybe in back of the retaining walls, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I would think that's good.
Yeah, if you can,
that's good.
yeah, if you can get something in there.
I mean, there's not going to be much, but if
nice.
there's some plantings up against that wall and then that little strip that's already clear, fill that in. Who was this? John Zimmer flagged this one? James?
Yes, that's correct.
So maybe John could come up with something that's suitable for that area.
Yeah.
Would be helpful.
Right, and Art made a suggestion of what would be suitable.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Better. That's good. So between them, come up with that. So do we want to continue that for those things or include them in the,
Well, right, because we have outstanding stormwater comments
okay,
that just came in. And so
Yep.
like one of them is they need a test pit, another is we need to like get the area of impervious correct. And we need to make sure that the chambers are sized for rainfall amounts. So, one of the things was that they're not using the most current rainfall data. So there was a question about that. And so that might be something that you might want to weigh in on is should they be looking for the climate friendly rainfall data when they size these infiltrators or not? Because they're not mandated yet, but it seems like everybody's going in that direction.
okay. So how long would it take to get that together? I mean, do we want to continue it to the 4th or the 18th?
I know I spoke with Greg about this one earlier today, and he felt confident we could get everything to you guys by the next hearing. He didn't think it was too much heavy lifting on this one.
But it's got to go back to the consultant, and we've got the holiday. So I'm thinking maybe it's actually the 18th on this one.
We have a lot on for the 4th, Jen, already. Yeah, Jen's shaking her head that we've already got a lot there. All right, well, hopefully you guys can really just tie everything together so that we can close it before the end of the year. So why don't we,
I'll make a motion to continue this to the 18th of December, 2023.
that's Richard. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Brendan, all in favor? Doug
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Okay, you got the gist of everything, right?
I got everything. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, James.
Okay. We have 817 Country Way. On November 13th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Are we reopening this one? Is that why?
Well, yes, so this was re-advertised due to the 6 continuance in between when they opened
Yep.
in last year, so.
Okay. So on November 13th, 2023 at 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws and Section 32050 Town of Scituate Stormwater Bylaw regarding the application of Option C Properties LLC for work related to a redevelopment of a multifamily housing and site grading at location 817 Country Way, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. So,
Bill Orenberger has his hand up.
yeah, we'll get them in there. We got to finish opening this. So is Mr. Armberger presenting this?
No, just by Bill Orenberger. I'm here with Kevin Grady. He's actually going to present it. Just briefly, this has been something where, just by way of explanation for the commission, this has been before the planning board for a considerable period of time. There's been a substantial reduction in density to the proposed development, and it was most recently last week. We've been before design review, we've been before the planning board, and we're going to be going back in the beginning of January to see the planning board. So I'm going to turn this over to Kevin because I know he's been working with Art Allen on some things. Kevin.
Thank you, Bill. Good evening.
Good evening, Frank. Kevin Grady from Grady Consulting, for the record, along with Bill Orenberger representing the applicant. We were before we submitted the application in February. We've had 3 meetings with the planning board and a few iterations with design review. Our latest revision on the plans is October 19th. So we submitted revised plans and responses to comments from Art Allen Ecotech on October 16th. And we also just received comments from him on November 9th that were dated, I believe, the 26th. So we just got those into you this evening. The site, the existing site contains 3 buildings. The site is primarily developed. The applicant, not now with the new zoning, the applicant would like to build a multifamily dwelling complex. There's a bordering vegetative wetland to the west of the property behind building number 3, basically, that you see there. And the other resource area associated with the site is a cross-country way, which is off the screen to the east or to the right of your screen. The majority of the project is outside of the commission's jurisdiction. The whole center of the screen that you're looking at here is outside of any resource area or buffer zones. We are reviewing the stormwater for this project with the planning board. The commission agreed that the planning board could do the review. In our responses to Ecotech, a couple of the main things that concern the Conservation Commission is initially we delineated the bordering vegetative wetland to the west as an isolated vegetative wetland. The vegetation is separated from the adjacent other resource areas, but Art Allen believed there was a hydraulic connection, and we reviewed it with John Zimmer, and no need to fight over that. We're going to be meeting the performance standards with either designation. I revised the notice of intent and paid the additional fee associated with that designation today. The other major change was across the street, across Country Way to the east. We initially had delineated that as a pond. It was Hackett's Pond, I believe, for prior to the dam being removed. Once the dam was removed, it became a perennial river, and we now have submitted plans detailing conformance with the riverfront standards. There's approximately 17,400 square feet of riverfront on the property. To the east, pretty much on the right side of the plan. To the top right quadrant, you can see where it says 200-foot riverfront zone, right next to the bike rack, basically where you see bike rack. I don't have control over your screen, so it's hard for me to point. Thank you. That area is primarily developed. The only things we're doing within the riverfront zone, basically providing accessible access for pedestrians. A lot of it's accessible for handicap accessibility, but mostly we're making connections at the strong suggestion of the planning board, to the street, to the parking, and also to that building. So we've really worked this plan for accessibility. That was a big topic for the peer reviewer, the planning board's peer reviewer, and also the planners as well. As far as impacts to the riverfront zone, we are separated from the river by Country Way. The site is developed. The existing site is also developed, but it has no stormwater controls. So currently, all the water from this hill runs out onto Country Way and goes to a catch basin at the town line, the Cohasset town line. It runs uncontrolled and without treatment. So the improvement to the riverfront area will be that we're going to provide stormwater controls, which will control peak rate. We'll also provide treatment. It'll also provide infiltration or recharge. It will also help with temperature moderation of the runoff. So we believe that is a good improvement to the riverfront area. Everything eventually is going to, any stormwater runoff is eventually going to get to the river and then flow out. Everything goes downhill. As far as the BVW, we are maintaining a 50-foot setback, and the BVW again is on the other end of the project to the west on your left. We're proposing erosion controls. We're proposing a 12-inch diameter silt sock from anywhere within the 100-foot buffer zone. I've done a comprehensive erosion control plan that also includes a silt fence around the entire perimeter of the project during construction to help with any runoff, siltation, litter, debris to any abutters and eventually downhills to the resource areas. We're proposing a post and rail fence along the 50-foot buffer zone as a deterrent and a warning that it's a resource area to minimize impacts and intrusion into the undisturbed buffer zone. Let's see. I think as far as the wetlands resource areas, that's about it. I think the project does protect the interests of the Wetlands Protection Act and also the Town of Scituate stormwater bylaw. And I'll leave it at that and take any questions that the commission may have.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, it's a pretty dense project that they're proposing here. With, you know, we do have that peer review that you had for accuracy for the resource areas, and that seems to be being worked out pretty good, as Kevin just alluded to. So we're making progress in that department. And as he also said, this project seems to have evolved a bit since it was originally presented in the last 6 or 8 months. It's gone through some changes. So, but as you can see, though, that what they've landed on in the front part of the site by Country Way already had, you know, existing buildings, and you know that building one's not really changing, but they are gaining in, you know, structures and pavement as you go back towards your 100-foot jurisdictional area in the back. But they are keeping the project away from your, you know, right up to that 50-foot buffer. So it is a buffer zone project, and one that you could condition that the stormwater review, which is still in process and definitely undergoing various levels of refinement and tweaking to meet the standards, would be part of the orders. So other than giving maybe some of your initial thoughts on this, I think the bulk of this review is either not jurisdictional to Concom, or it's in areas of the site that were already developed and then do respect your 50-foot buffer. So it's probably something you can condition, with also rolling in the stormwater permit into the orders as co-authority with the planning board for that permit. So DEP had no comments.
Okay. Is there a way to open this up? I'm seeing buildings 2 and 3. Is
We
there a
eliminated the 4th building.
I'm
Frank,
just
if you're
looking for
another building.
I'm looking for number 1.
It's in the
Oh, it's up
yeah,
front.
yeah.
By Country Way.
Oh, okay, got it. It's just behind all the names.
That's the existing brown building that's out there.
And that's going to remain.
Yeah, it's constructed in 1961. I think they're going to do some architectural improvements to the facade, but there's no additions or any groundwork associated with that. We are proposing a walkway in the front there for accessibility. As I said, it's been strongly suggested by the planning board.
Okay, thank you. Who wants to lead off? Richard?
I can't see it on the plan. You referred to it. The runoff going to the drain that's right on the line in Country Way. Do we have a,
Yeah, if you
anything
scroll
that
down,
shows-
we scroll
I
down
can't
just
do
a
that.
little.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, the other way. Sorry, up, I guess. Right there. So it says C basin. Yep, there you go.
Okay. And that's in the street.
Yep.
And that's going to handle, and I'm not the engineer. We've got two others that are, but that's going to handle all the runoff water.
So it's
from the whole
currently
thing?
handling all the runoff. Everything from the site runs down the hill and goes out on a country way and down to there, or it goes to the left of the building. So some of it goes to the left of the building into that catch basin. We are proposing catch basins and infiltration basins throughout the property. I believe we have approximately 6 different areas. So we've spread the stormwater out and are recharging throughout the property.
Mm-hmm.
So right now there's catch basins that go to subsurface drainage areas. The commission's peer review consultant is pushing for us to change our infiltration rate, which will require us to add another layer of pre-treatment. We get a better credit on how much infiltration these systems are able to do, but we will have to add another layer of pre-treatment, which is probably what they're really angling for.
Okay.
And I think the commission would probably
Like that.
be on board with that.
Yep.
More is better.
For now, Frank, I'm good.
Okay, Brendan?
Yeah, so I guess I'm looking at an overhead of the current situation and building 3 is new, so is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you're gonna clear to the 50 into the 100 and put a building that's a third in the 100, and I guess is our trade-off for that stormwater, is that it? Or is there other mitigation proposed?
Well, we're not proposing mitigation. We did detail in our narrative how the project does not have adverse impacts to the function of the bordering vegetated wetland. We are proposing stormwater, and again, that controls peak rate and does add a layer of treatment and recharge. So we are going to leave a 50-foot undisturbed buffer that will mitigate any erosion, sedimentation, etc. to the resource area, but we'll also be leaving a pretty good sized area of habitat. Now this area is, again, pretty well developed, and just to the left off of the screen, which you can't see, is the MBTA rail. So this site is sandwiched between Country Way and the railroad, and really isn't a great opportunity for habitat. But again, we have detailed how we meet the performance standards and are protecting the functions of the resource area.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Doug?
Yeah, I'm not sure what to ask beyond that. I guess I was wondering if there was a planting plan for the site,
Yes, we do have a landscape plan.
the landscape plan, things.
There's 25 sheets, which you would not be able to flip through in this format.
Okay.
Maybe you could. Maybe they could bring up the landscape sheet. It's sheet 9.
If I have full copies of it, I can find that on my own. Well, unless, I don't know if we
The
can.
plan does look better in color. It doesn't look so
Well, that's what I wanted, was the color.
industrial. It you know, in black and white, it does look extremely busy. You're looking at utilities and things that are under the ground that
Oh, there we go.
that should regenerate in a second. There you go.
That's what I was looking for. So there's some beautification of the site going on.
Yeah.
So that, and that the darker green over on the left, that's the buffer zone untouched,
Correct.
or the kind of gray, like
Yeah.
grayish green there.
Different
So,
green. Yep.
yeah. And I know that there's subsurface infiltration systems in between these areas that you can't be planting trees over and stuff like that. So, but that
Correct.
helps. Seeing that, I think, helps. And really, we're looking at two buffer zones, one in the left side, one on the right side. Well, actually, it's the riverfront area. Is that the limit of our jurisdictions on the east side there?
Correct.
Yeah. So, and that's a lot of that is existing. So, and I don't remember it. You're saying there was 4 buildings before
Yeah.
Proposed.
Well,
proposed,
yeah,
and
that was-
you removed one of those out of the proposal in
Correct.
exchange for more parking.
No, in exchange for hopefully getting an approval without needing a special permit and all of the costs and improvements associated with that.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so that other building was located where you see that brown walkway, and it's open lawn space.
Right.
The planning board has asked us to remove or consider removing 5 parking spaces because we have proposed more than is prescriptively required. You know, visitors, snow storage,
Right.
et cetera. But so we're gonna probably eliminate a few parking spaces before coming back to you guys.
Okay. Thank you. I was looking for that. That helps to see that, I think.
Thanks.
Okay. Where did I leave? What was it? Richard? Did you comment yet?
I did.
So Brendan?
He did too.
Oh.
You're up, Frank.
Do we have anybody in the audience?
You're up, Frank.
There's a hand raised, I think.
Yep.
You need to
Yeah,
comment
raise
more?
hand feature on the bottom of the screen, if you'd like to comment with your name and address.
Beverly Bruce.
We have Beverly Bruce.
Do we have someone there?
Hi, I think we're unmuted now.
Good.
You are.
Thank you. This is Bevan Allen Bruce from 19 Mordecai Lincoln Road. We're on the opposite side of Bound Brook, and we've been to a few of these meetings, but as I'm a non-engineering person, so I'm going to ask a hopefully simple question. So knowing that there's the existing grade that's proposed on the driveway entering into the development, are the catch basins going to be able to accommodate the stormwater running off the parking lot area and not rushing down into the brook? I know that there's a grade from the road upwards into the development. Can you help me understand that better?
Kevin?
Okay. Yep. So you guys looking for me to answer that? Sure.
Yep.
We do have catch basins at the bottom of the hill. As you can see, on the lower side, we have set that catch basin back into the gutter line a little bit to help grab some of that runoff. And I should probably do it to the other side as well, so that the water doesn't have the chance to run behind. When you set it back a little bit, it does a better job catching that. So I do anticipate that we have adequate capacity to intercept that runoff before going out into Country Way. And currently there's a pretty good grade going up there as well. And it is paved all the way back up to the top of the hill. So that's an existing condition as well, and there's zero stormwater controls.
Could we ask another question? A couple of questions. So what is the existing slope of that driveway? And what is the proposed slope of that driveway going down to Country Way? And I'll be upfront. Our concern is the water velocity coming down that slope of that proposed driveway and overrunning those catch basins and running down the street and into Bound Brook Pond.
Sure, if you bear with me for just a sec here. I don't have that data at hand here.
And would you consider a trench drain at the very bottom of the driveway to try to help mitigate that water velocity that's going to come down that driveway? Because everything that comes down that driveway is going to be tainted with oil from
So
the
that
parked
oh, sorry.
cars.
So actually the slope at the steepest point is about equivalent to what we're proposing. It's right around 8%. And it flattens out a little bit sooner than we're proposing at the top of the hill. Trench drains are prone to have maintenance issues that deep sump catch basins don't have. Trench drains are pretty shallow and the leaves will collect in them. I think you're gonna have more of an issue with trench drains. I will look at doing double catch basins along there.
Okay, that would be
haven't-
great.
I'm sure I looked at it sometime between February and here and saw what the rate of water that was going into them, but I can't recall it at the moment. So I'll take
Yeah.
another look at that.
That'd be great.
Okay, thank
Because
you.
our big concern is that water velocity running down that street, carrying all the oil from the cars parked
Sure.
and then crossing over into Bound Brook.
Well, we're going to improve that because right now there's 8 apartments there that all park on pavement and there's no stormwater controls. So that
We're
part
gonna
of
have
it
a lot.
should be improved.
We're gonna have a lot more than 8 apartments though at the end of the day.
Yeah, how many parking spaces again are on this plan, the current plan? I know you reduced it.
It's 50, but hold on.
Okay,
50 something.
50 something is fine.
Yeah, 63. 53 are required.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Where is the leaching area, Kevin?
Sure. So there's 2 separate leaching areas. There's an existing one that has let's see, Scituate says pervious paver patio with fire pit.
Yep.
And there's a retaining wall.
Yes.
So that's where that one is. And
So
then
it's kind of under the parking area or below it?
It's partially under the parking area and to the right of it, right at probably 10 feet, 5 or 10 feet off of that retaining wall.
Is that the retaining wall holding back the material for the
Correct.
leaching area? Okay.
Correct. And then we have a proposed one, Frank, in that southerly parking lot and extending all the way pretty much under the towards building 3. So that whole area is leaching field.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Looks like we have someone else's hand up.
Kathleen DeJordy, I'm gonna unmute her.
Oops. Yes, hi. This is Kathy DeJordi. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. We live at 429 South Main Street, directly adjacent to 817 Country Way. I wanted to sort of piggyback on the comments of the other abutter, the Bruces, about the velocity of runoff from the existing driveway and also the slope that's being created. And refer also to that catch basin at the bottom of the northern portion of the site on Country Way there. So it's been our experience, you know, we've lived here, 12 years now, that catch basin does not catch much stormwater runoff during storm events. I would say it's very minimal. There's another stormwater basin in front of our property, in front of our stone wall. And a lot of the water comes running towards that direction and into that basin, so that it's very, very high volume of water. Whereas I see that basin doesn't do much. I did want to make that comment. I don't know if that's the context of the Conservation Commission, if your jurisdiction is handling that, or if this is more of a comment from the planning board in terms of stormwater. But anyway, obviously we're concerned about stormwater. We live directly adjacent to the property. We don't want situations where there's, frozen drains and there's clogged drains on the property too. And we want to make sure that the operation and maintenance plans moving forward are protective of our property so that the stormwater doesn't migrate over the property line and coming down our driveway, which also has a slope. So I wanted to mention that. I also wanted to mention that there is one of the comments from the planning board members was whether there was new impervious surface created after they removed the building, and there was a new parking lot area added, and that is the parking area between buildings 1 and buildings 2 with 9 spaces, and that's covering a portion, it looks like, of the leaching field. So, that's pretty much open field right now. And, I don't know if the Board of Health is addressing all of that. I don't know if you talked to the Board of Health and where that stands, but we'd like to know a little bit more about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin, do you want to start? Maybe Amy, you
Sure.
can.
So as far as the catch basin to the on the Cohasset town line, we basically analyzed the pre and post development rates of runoff. We've broken the site down into various areas and calculated how much water goes off of the site now and how much water goes off after the development. And there's also a peer reviewer who has taken a look at that, and they have not they've agreed with our analysis of pre and post runoff. So basically what we're saying is that we're not going to increase the rate of runoff to that catch basin or any catch basins in that area. We're required to equal or reduce. And if you look at the stormwater system, we've got numerous stormwater components to attenuate the runoff from the proposed development prior to letting it discharge. So we're confident that we're not going to increase rate or overwhelm any downstream receptors. Then as far as the leaching field goes, yes, the Board of Health is the leaching field or the septic system improving authority. So yes, there is going to be some pavement over that system. The system is made of Schedule 40 PVC pipe, I think 1.5 or 2-inch laterals set in crushed stone, which is capable of handling H20 large truck loads. So I have no worries about putting loads on that. We've added inspection ports to the leaching field, and we feel that it's going to function adequately. that leaching field is actually has an alternative treatment system on it that's going to reduce BOD, nitrates, etc. So that system has been functioning well for a long time, and we anticipate that it will continue to do so. Was there another question? Did I get them all?
Well, I did want to just make a comment that if in terms of that catch basin there, if it's just equaling and not necessarily reducing the runoff, you know, I'm just wondering why, because and I don't know if you've been there during these storm events, you know, but it's I did take a video at one point, and I'm happy to share it at some point in time. It doesn't catch, that basin doesn't catch. It comes right in front of our house. And so, you know, it's a problem. That's all. I don't know how to solve that problem, but it just seems that in the context of this application, that can be addressed and should be addressed.
Kevin?
So again, we are working with the planning board, their peer review consultant, and we have worked on hundreds and hundreds of these types of projects. The standard is no increase in rate, and we meet that. So we're not going to make what you're describing as a problem. We're not going to make that we're not going to make that more severe. I don't have the calculations in front of me. It's probably a 500-page book. I can't tell you off the top of my head what the reduction in rate is, but it's typically we do have some portion of a reduction. I just don't have it.
Okay.
And so we meet the standards.
All right. So another hand up, John DeWall.
I'm gonna unmute John Duval.
Good evening, everybody. My name is John DeWall. I'm at 431 South Main Street. I'm in a butter, literally across my driveway from the project. And Kevin, I've heard your comments here about the storm drain. I just want to add a little bit more information to you because we've been here for 30 years. I'm very familiar with what happens down at the bottom of that driveway. I've seen the water pool up significantly there. And what's unique about that intersection, whether you're coming from Cohasset or out of North Scituate, there's just enough of a little curve there that you know, people tend to move to one side or the other depending on what the snow and the water is doing. And when that water freezes over, they're not quite ready to hit the ice that they're going to eventually run into. So I think that's the reason that Kathy and I share the concern about making sure that there is enough drainage for that particular spot in the roadway. My second question is, again, having been here 30 years, there is an extensive canopy of trees along the north side of the property, abutting our driveways for both the DeJordi's and ourselves. It appears that you plan to eliminate that entire canopy, and I wonder if that's really necessary because a lot of those trees have been there a long time. They're very well grown, and it's a ideal buffer between the project and our property. So anything you can do about that would be appreciated.
Sure, thank you. I also share the concern of any stormwater issues after this is developed, as my name is on this. I'm stamping it. I've been in business for 25 years, probably gonna have to work another 20. And I really want this to work and work for you guys, work for me, and work for my client. So I hope I didn't come across that I was minimizing that at all.
No, you
Um,
just said you met the standards, and my reaction was, wow, this is a unique spot down there. And that's all I wanted to do was just, share that with you, that it is a unique situation down there. And if you get an opportunity here in the next 60 days to see a good heavy rainstorm and see what happens down there, I think you'd be surprised.
Sure. And in the while you were asking the questions, I was multitasking here. I pulled up our stormwater report, and we are proposing a reduction currently, because this is still a work in progress, to design point. We're calling that design point number 3, and basically we're reducing it by. It's hard to give you a measure. But design point 3 is currently receiving 1.87 cubic feet per second in the current development. And we're going to knock that down for the 2-year storm by half a CFS. So it's a pretty good factor there. 10-year storm, the same. 25-year storm, we're reducing it by 1 cubic foot per second, and then the 100-year storm, almost 2. So we have reductions in all design points. There's no zeros in those peak rate analysis. And then as far as the canopy goes, I'm not sure exactly where you were referring to, but we are trying to keep those trees in the front, that's in the top right corner of the plan there. You can see them.
Yeah, I see the evergreens that's on the Desertes property. I'm more concerned about the natural trees that are there. They're probably 40 feet tall right now, with a beautiful canopy, and I'm hopeful that you guys can find a way to work around those.
We're actually meeting with the planning board to review that prior to the next planning board hearing, and we're happy to save trees that we can. It's a fine line between saving trees and leaving trees there that'll wind up dying if we get into their roots, etc. So we're trying to balance saving the good trees with good canopy, and then planting trees that will grow and provide a barrier or a sight line break now and into the future. So that's what we're trying to balance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Frank, can I add one comment?
Sure.
Kevin, there's a reason why a non-engineer who lives at the total end of town actually raised the question about that drainage on the Cohasset line. That's only because we have some friends that live over in Cohasset, and I, over the 20 years or so, have been by after several storms, and what those neighbors are saying is absolutely true. They have a right to be concerned about it. There's been many times when it's an issue. So that's the only reason I raised it. And I have to tell you that they're not exaggerating the point.
Yep, and I understand, and I can see where you're coming from. We're doing what we can from our side. As I said, we are providing reduction in the rate of runoff, and this site isn't the only site that's contributing. Right. As you know, this is an ancient way. It's a colonial way that was never updated by the town, and really it's a town way and it's kind of the town's maintenance issue. It's not really a butter who has frontage here, and we really are. We've had several reviews with the town, and we're providing a lot of stormwater capacity here and mitigation.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
We have anybody else? So I know you've got a lot of layers of plans. Pardon me?
I think she said seeing none.
Okay. So Kevin, with those catch basins at the street, what are those going to be sent to or led to? I'm not seeing I don't have that.
Sure.
information.
If we go back to the grading sheet would be fine, but basically, Frank, out in front of the existing building.
Yeah.
There is a subsurface drainage system proposed. And at the top, yep.
There we go.
So that's the existing conditions plan. I think we need to get to sheet 10 would probably work.
Sorry, Jen, I couldn't open it with mine.
So sheet 10, I think the sheets are numbered in the lower right-hand corner. I think you're on like 4 or 5 there. Yep.
That's 5.
There you go. See, I drew all that.
Haha.
All right, so lower right quadrant at the entrance, you see
Yep.
2 catch basins that
Yes.
connect to a manhole, and then they go over. You can see subsurface drainage area number 3 in front of building number 1 there. The parking lot between building number 1 and building number 2, there's a catch basin catching any water running off of that parking lot before it gets to the entrance at Countryway. So it's collected by that catch basin. It runs over to a subsurface drainage area number 6. And then there's a small 4-inch overflow that goes out the other way. So we're slowing down the runoff there. Top of the hill, you can see 3 catch basins. Those 3 catch basins are connected to 2 subsurface areas. These are the dash lines you see here, subsurface drainage area number 1, and then subsurface drainage area number 5. Can you see those dash lines? I don't have a pointer, so it's.
No, I got it.
Okay. And then if we pan over to the left, there's 2 more catch basins that connect to another subsurface drainage area number 2. That's a long rectangle. And then there's 1 more behind building number 3 that collects the roof runoff. And it's a combination of storage and infiltration units. And as you can see, we've spread it throughout the property, which is going to help us get recharge and help us control the peak rates. And also will provide treatment, temperature moderation, etc. It's currently, it just runs down the driveway out into the road.
Okay. All right.
And if you look at the existing conditions plan, you can see how much driveway there really is there. It's not just
Okay.
1 parking space.
Right.
It's pretty significant.
Okay. Does any other members want to add anything to their comments?
I wanted to remind everyone is that the drainage review is being, who's doing that? Kevin?
TEC. Yeah, TEC.
Company called TEC is a
Yeah.
peer review consultant for planning board and for us, I guess you could say too.
Right. So that their primary objective then is to verify all the numbers that he's talking about and make sure that those drainage calculations are correct and that it will work. So you're not relying only on Kevin. There's 2 different firms looking at that.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So do we want to continue this for some additional information?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
not looking to close tonight, Frank.
How long do you think we need to come back to us with
We meet with the planning board again in January, I believe January 25th. So anytime right before that is fine. That should give Art time to review and me to volley it back over the net to him. And I'm sure you guys have
Or
plenty
should
to.
we come back after you go back to the planning board?
Do you guys
Sounds like
want
you should go to the planning board first and then come back to us.
do you guys want to close after they're done? Is that how you typically do it?
Yes, because we'll want to close with the latest, like the best, like the last set of revised plans.
Yeah, so I have January 25th.
We're meeting February.
Only if you put me first on the agenda.
At this point, it looks like you could have that spot. February 12th would be the meeting in February.
Okay.
I make a motion to continue
Richard, before you do, is there anything else that we're gonna want to hear about this from changes with the planning board that we would want to continue them to an earlier meeting, even if we wind up continuing it? I know I'm not in favor of doing a lot of continuances, but I would not want to push this all the way out to February and then find out that there was something else that the commission needed to weigh in on that would push it out even. Am I making any sense?
Yep,
Yeah,
that
and
makes
I
sense.
think that Kevin has by and large addressed all of Art's concerns, laid out in his last peer review, like he said, so it's mostly in the details of the stormwater review and of the project. So to the extent that that all changes and gets worked out, we'll want to have our, the site plans that are referenced in the orders be those plans. But I don't think you're looking for anything in addition to what Art asked for. I didn't hear anything from the comments.
I get the other one that I was going to ask Kevin, or could anybody else, is we did hear the concerns of water runoff to Bound Brook and Hunter's, well, it's not Hunter's Pond anymore, so it's part of the Bound Brook. So is there any cleaning up of that water or anything that's being discharged along that area that's going to get that's going to see any additional treatment? Or
Yeah, currently, Frank, we have deep sump catch basins, which again, the sumps are to collect debris and sand, etc. Then we go through a manhole into an infiltration basin, and then there's small outlets out of that. So that provides 80% TSS removal. As I indicated, the planning board's review engineer is angling to have us add another BMP. I think when we come back, you're going to find that we're going to be somewhere around 90% total suspended solids removal. So yes, there is plenty of treatment happening before discharge, especially when you compare it to the fact that there's no stormwater controls here now.
right, but there's a well, I guess the upper part of that project isn't draining to the street anyways. It's going into its own infiltration areas. So where does it go, Kevin, when it hits that sort of dispersing area? How does it go on to Country Way, or does it go into another pipe that takes it under the street?
So it goes down the gutter line of Country Way. It's
okay.
It's a crowned road or a super elevated road.
So after it hits those basins, it goes into that shoulder, gets cleaned up, and then it just runs along that.
Yeah.
I'm picturing something that goes uphill towards Cohasset. But
yeah, it's pretty flat out there. I thought the same thing when I was first analyzing this stormwater.
But it's okay.
It does, it runs downhill to Cohasset.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yes,
it's a
that's-
22 contour and then a 20 contour.
Sure. Okay. So back to the thought of continuing to an earlier meeting, just in case we need to get any other information. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. If we were,
I'm not sure either, to be honest. In one regard, my client has to pay me to come just to say hello. But in another, a check-in isn't necessarily the end of
well,
the world.
you
know?
can send a letter,
Yeah.
basically asking for a continuation. If we push you out to February, and then
Anyway.
there's something that's relevant that comes up that we should be acting on. I just wonder if we shouldn't continue to something in January, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, when does the planning board will have their next meeting?
January 25th.
Not till January 25th. So do we even have another meeting after that?
Not until the 12th of February.
I think that'll be fine for Frank, because
okay.
what's going to happen, the planning board might close that hearing, but then they always want another hearing to or to read the conditions in. So
Yep.
we won't be done. So I think we're fine with the February 12th.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Any comments?
I appreciate the thought, though.
Oh, I want to find out that we have to go backwards.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll take a motion.
Make a motion to continue 817 Country Way to February 12th, 2024.
That's a motion by Richard. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
From Doug. All in favor? Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Great. Thank you very much. Good,
Thanks,
thorough,
everybody.
nice review. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good
Have a
night.
good night, everyone.
Okay, gonna get a motion to continue 2830, so opposite 28 to 280 to 286 Central Ave. To continue that to
Don't have any idea. Do you, Amy?
$12.18.
Make
That's
a
what I
motion.
have written down here.
Okay, I make a motion to continue 286 Central Avenue to December 18th, 2023.
That's Richard. A second.
I'll second
Second.
that.
From Brendan, all in favor, Doug?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Great, thank you. And we will also have a request to continue 0 and 40 Crescent Ave. And they would like to be continued to December 4th.
Make a motion to continue 0 and 40 Crescent Ave to December 4th, 2023.
That's Richard. Do we have a second?
Second.
From Doug. All in favor, Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Great. All right. Public meeting request for determination of applicability for 17 Mordecai Lincoln Road. Let's see, where's my sheet here? Got it. Sorry, Jen. I like to give Jen a little. On November 13th, 2023 at the 6 p.m. meeting, the Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of William Logan and Susan Branch Logan for determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws for activity related to a septic repair at a single-family dwelling at location 17 Mordecai Lincoln Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access this meeting is available on the agenda posted on the town website. And this is for Morse Engineering.
We have James.
Geez, James, we could have done this out of order and we could have got you out of there. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, so James Garfield, Morse Engineering, here representing William and Susan Logan for the septic system repair. This is an RDA filing. Resource areas of the site are a bordering vegetated wetland, and then the 1,500-foot setbacks there too, as well as the 200-foot riverfront area associated with Bound Brook. So the proposed system, I guess to start, this is a cesspool currently exists on site within the 100-foot BBW setback. The applicant's proposing a new septic system consisting of a gravity-fed septic tank and Presby EnviroSeptic leaching field. The proposed septic tank is totally outside the 100-foot BBW setback, and the leaching field is just barely inside the 100-foot BBW setback. And septic systems are exempt from riverfront area requirements, even though we show that magenta line for the 200-foot. We've got an erosion control barrier of a mulch sock down gradient of our proposed work. And yeah, we think this will be a great improvement to the site, and that's back to the commission for any questions.
Amy?
Yes, so this would be a good upgrade for a for a cesspool to a compliant Title V. I believe that it would meet the requirements of a negative determination, and also on a project like this, we would put a note that we're not confirming the resource areas as depicted for a future project. But other than that, I think it's good to go, and I believe this also has Board of Health approval.
Sounds good. Who would like to, Brendan?
I think this is good. I have no questions. Thank you.
Richard?
No questions.
Douglas?
No questions. Curiosity, James, it looks like you could have pulled that farther towards the street. Got the leaching area out of the 100. Not that it's a big deal, but is that just to keep within the 2 test pits that you got out there?
There's that consideration, and I think Greg Morse did the test pits out on this site, and he had mentioned to me that there is ledge in this area. And I think that was a consideration, just having an area with sufficient natural soil for the leaching field. I think he mentioned there was potential for ledge in the front yard.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I knew there was a reason. Just thought. I sat and listened so long in the last one that I thought I just would talk.
There you go.
So yeah. So no, I'm good.
I think ledge could be pretty relevant in that area, that's for sure. Okay, do we have anybody in the audience for this one? Okay, I'll take a motion.
Make a motion for a -3.
That's Richard, a second.
I'll second.
That's from Doug. All in favor, Brendan?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Frank, yes. Good. Thanks, James.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
You too. I feel bad. We could have sprung him.
I know. Poor guy.
Well, I get to listen to 817 Country Way. All right. Amy, any updates that are worthy of keeping us here longer?
Well, we wanted to talk about the Mordecai Lincoln Committee
Oh, yeah.
representative, and
I nominate Penny.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think that's fair, since we know she's pretty interested. I
Yep.
And
assume you
she's
had a
very
convo with
close.
her.
I
And
don't
she's
think
very
we could assign anyone else, to be quite honest.
We could try.
You want to do it? You want to do that?
No, I didn't suggest that.
Okay.
It's been recorded.
Let the
so-
notes reflect. It
Oh,
should be
great.
Penny.
That's super.
unanimous.
I
Yeah.
vote for Penny.
I think we're there. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I don't think that there's anything worthy of keeping you here late tonight, as a matter of fact.
A certificate of compliance for 215 Tilden, they might want that.
Yeah, so that was a new build, actually that came through you a couple years ago, and as built came through, they did add the posts that you required, so think that we can sign off on that one. Should be good to go.
Oh. All right. And then Doug, we've had a little back and forth on emails, and I apologize, I was away for a few days, but just trying to get sorted out. Maybe we can catch up. I know there's more interest in the Border Street field, and Doug's offered to kind of do a few preliminary. What my goal would be is to just come up with a few very rough kind of areas that we could put this, and then at a future meeting, put some time aside to discuss it, so people that not only on the commission, but other interested parties would have a chance to weigh in with their thoughts. So we could come up with a plan for parking for Border Street. And maybe between you and Jen, myself, we could just kind of, and Amy, show where we discuss when we've met out there on site. I mean, anybody's welcome to do that, but I think we've kind of narrowed it down to 3 or 4 locations. And if and Doug was willing to kind of give us a little sketch of those areas that we could overlay on a plan, and then just hopefully pick one so we could move forward. Hoping that funding for that will come between monies that the folks that brought this project forward will be able to put in, along with maybe some other materials, and we could get at least part of this done in that fashion.
Did I send you a couple sketches?
You
already?
you did one that ran along Border Street, and I had sent you some really hacked thing about where they might go. So I was kind of hoping maybe we could just get together, you and Jen and I and Amy, because we've been out there before.
We'll just get together. I'll bring my laptop and we'll lay it out.
Okay. And that's about it from me. Anybody else?
Make a motion.
Make a motion to close the meeting.
That's a motion. How about a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Doug?
Yes.
Frank, yes.
Didn't quite
You all
set the
have a-
record, Frank.
Well, we had a
did
lot
good.
of, for the
You
amount
did
of ground
good.
we had to cover, I think you did
Did really good.
extremely well.
All good.
We take that as a ratio. I think we did well.
I agree.
All right. Hey, have a good night.
Thank
night,
you.
everyone.
Good night.
Take care.